Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prashad Hari Pashtatara Satanane Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I just realized I was running a bit late. Do I need to put up Bhagavad Gita for anyone?
Not really.
Mother Lavanga normally needs it. I can do it. Let me just do that quick. 1 second. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I have got the book, but I normally read on the computer.
Okay, let me try. It's not much to get it up.
That's okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
It is. Now I have to just share the screen. Share screen. Bhagavad Gita as it is. There we are. All right, share. Okay. So chapter 6, text 48. Okay, let's have someone to read verse and the purport. Any readers out there? Any readers?
Not me. I don't do this one. Labanga, you can read.
Everyone can see the verse?
Yep.
Mother Lavanga, could you read the verse?
Yeah. Kachinno bhaya vibrat sad chinar viram eva nadyati aprati isto mahabaho vimudo brahmana parti. Almighty Aunt Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport. There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He is like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmana Pati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Shri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many births. Bhavanam Jananam Mante. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga, or Krishna consciousness, the direct method.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Right, so Arjuna is asking quite a few questions here at the end of this chapter. Well, quite a few. First of all, he's having doubts in a process that Krishna has just explained. Remember, he's saying this Astanga or this meditation seems very, 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 very difficult, just like trying to catch the wind in a pot. Yeah, that's one explanation given. Yeah, but then Krishna explains, he encourages Arjuna. Well, first of all, he agrees with him. Yes, okay, it's difficult, but it is possible. And he mentioned two things. Anyone can tell us what those two things are? It is possible. He said it's assured of success.
surrender to Krishna? Bhakti, devotional service?
Well,
You perform devotional service.
well, you can't go wrong with that answer. That kind of
Well,
but everything covered. Suitable knowledge and detachment, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
yes,
Described
detachment.
it like that. No, suitable practice. That was it. It was suitable practice and detachment. Yeah. Suitable practice and by detachment. That's text 35. Yeah. And Prabhupada describes that suitable practice is what we know as what Mother Chandravali said. It's engaging in devotional service. Yeah. And Prabhupada highlights that. Remember we highlighted that the other acharyas didn't specifically focus on the practice of bhakti, interestingly. But Prabhupada, remember we had that discussion, he brought it out by engaging in the practical devotional service in this age of Kali. Yeah. And then detachment. Suitable practice and detachment. And he described Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement in the mind in spirit. Okay. So then, yeah, Krishna says, one who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. But then Arjuna begins, then he asks a question. Last week we looked at this. What is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendence? This is the same vein as this question. Who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and does not attain perfection in mysticism. Then he asked his question today, which we just read, text 38. Yeah. So in other words, this person is not a materialist, and he's not 100% gross materialist, but he's also not a spiritualist. So what happens? Yeah, what's his destination? And I think some of us might know what the answer will be. Yeah.
If one takes up to the spiritual path, one is sure to progress if he's determined and follows the process properly. But if he doesn't, there's no loss, because wherever he stopped, he will start again at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually. There's no loss in whatever amount you practice. It's like that you have that, and then if something happens on your path, then the next birth you get, you'll be born in, it says, an aristocratic family or a family in knowledge.
Yeah, you've got it already. You already know. Yeah, that's perfect. You just described the next two verses where Krishna explains that. So, sorry, you was going to say something, Mother?
But we should not wait for that, because in this material world, with the mind that we've got, we should not wait for saying, but I will start next life. Let me enjoy myself now. Because
yes, and also like being born in an aristocratic family or a family rich in knowledge, it sounds very nice. So you think, well, do I have to try that hard? Because actually this is a guarantee Krishna is giving, but it's only if you like accidentally fall. You can't plan to not do well. It has to happen like by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
plus we have to be determined.
Yeah, otherwise that is called not being sincere in one's devotional practice. One's still harboring material desires, you could say. So they're planning for the next life. But there's something I was going to say, just forgot. Yeah. There's no loss or diminution. Materially speaking, and unless one completes a task, if one wants to do well if someone wants to start a business, but they give up halfway. They invest lots of money, but they don't take it to its fruition of actually succeeding in the business. They lose everything which they put into it. Yeah. But spiritual life is different, as will be explained in the next verses coming up. So that's, I guess you touched on it. So just we'll explain a little bit again when we come to the verse itself. But to take birth in a rich aristocratic family, yes, there is dangers there. To take birth in the material world means danger wherever you may take birth. But having said that, birth in a rich aristocratic family is generally referring to pious people, persons who are wealthy through dharma or through religious practice. Because there is some wealthy people who are very, very sinful and have gained their wealth through illegal means. Yeah, so that will be a inauspicious birth, because one will be entangled in further sinful reactions. Yeah, so this takes birth in a rich aristocratic family. That's also referring to families where they have where their tradition, they have a family dharma or family tradition of actually worshipping a deity, worshipping the Lord, like some of the royal families in India of old, or perhaps even now in some rare situations. Yeah. Yeah, in which, and Prabhupada, or in a family of transcendentalists. And Prabhupada, I think in the purple, he humbly speaks about himself of having taken birth where his father was a devotee. Yes. But anything on this particular purport here that we can bring out? This, yeah. There are two types of material, two ways to progress. One's the so-called progression of a materialist. Now, in the acharyas explain this as one might be attaining, one may be desirous of attaining swarga loka, but they're unable to follow the directions, or not direction, they're unable to follow the religious practices for obtaining swarga. Yeah. And they're also unable to complete the path of meditation and obtain release from material bondage. So what actually happens to them? Prabhupada says here, if the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. Yeah, and as you correctly said, he's like, there is actually no loss or diminution, and that's going to be brought out in the next verse or the one after that. Yeah. So you can never go backwards in spiritual life. Sometimes it may feel like we're going backwards, but you can't go backwards. It's very encouraging, isn't it? You cannot go backwards. You may stall your spiritual practice, may become paused, may press the pause button, but you will never go backwards. So then, as was mentioned, you take birth and continue from where you left off. Just like most of us are probably picking up from a practice in our previous life. So therefore, we've been attracted to the principles of bhakti. That's because of a previous life's practice. You know? So I don't know, but we can perhaps philosophically, we conclude that perhaps we was one of these persons who failed in a previous life. That's why we took birth again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we might have got to a certain level or and might have fallen away from the practice. You know? Mm. So therefore, we can be given, and we just continue from where we left off. Some of you are born in pious families. I wasn't born in a particular pious family, that's for sure. So I don't know what happened there. I took up Krishna consciousness from an impious setting. Anyway, I won't go into astrology. But yeah, any other questions or comments here?
This is what I'm saying, that okay, so you start off from wherever we've left, and then we start off, and then we try and take it seriously. But in our moment, we've seen so many devotees who have also left again from their position where, so we have to be very careful that we don't get to that stage, you know. And knowing that what we're getting in this life is what we've done in our previous life, our bank balance, we should then realize that, okay, we really need to do a lot to get out of this material world. Every step is dangerous.
Yeah, correct. So that's, yeah, also, just like we practically see that, I mean, it's only to be expected that persons are going to commit themselves to a spiritual practice, but they're unable to continue it in the long term. And that's not just something which we experience as the Krishna consciousness movement, but any religious discipline, you'll find people come, and due to, Prabhupada said, worldly mindedness, they desist from the path for one reason or another. Yeah. Even within the Christian, even Christians deal with this. Persons who come and get baptized and all of the rest of it, then the persons turn backwards again and go back into their materialistic life. And that's why you're going to see those who come to Krishna consciousness, you're going to see a great variety of determinations, where you got people who are just going to kind of almost walk into the association of devotees or walk into the temple as if they've literally just walked in from another life. There's not many questions, there's not many doubts. It's just, I've come back. Can I move in? Others, they're coming to the temple for years and they're struggling with the principles for a long time. And they may not even come to the point of any commitment. But others, they just walk in the door. Practically, I've seen that in the temple. It just reminded me now of Ananta Kripa. He just literally walked in the door. There was no discussion much about if he wanted to join. He just wanted to join. He was from the very first day. He had some contact before, I think in Spain, but it wasn't like we was cultivating him for months, you know. Like some of these boys, they cultivate these young boys and girls, they cultivate at 108. They put so much effort into it, you know. But not many of them actually step through the door of the temple making a commitment. At least not. But the association of devotees has set them up for eternity, actually, for perhaps following in the next life. Anyway, Arjuna is asking the question here. What happens? Yeah, Almighty armed Krishna, does not such a man or woman who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So that's the question. And the question continues in the next verse as well, text 39.
I want a bit of explanation about this sentence. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it's blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. So how can you explain that in like a...
Well, I thought it was quite self-explanatory. It's quite
It is.
it's quite a wonderful example.
I want to put it into my head like how a devotee. No, like, see how you water roots and all the trees watered like that. If you are on your own, you could be blown away, right? No.
Yeah, that's another.
Am I going the wrong way? Am I going the wrong way in my thinking?
No, anyway, let's just comment. There's just In other words, one may perish like a riven cloud. That means one is neither a full-on materialist, because one has some inclination towards spiritual life, but one is unable to practice spiritual life. So they they take up material life again. But still they can't really find it difficult to get back into material life. Sometimes devotees who leave often explain like that they find it very hard to actually be just like a materialist that they used to be. But at the same time, their material attachments will not let them take fully to spiritual life. So and you've also meet devotees like that. They kind of, or you see them.
Yeah, I just wanted to get into it.
Yeah. So they haven't quite got it anymore to get right into material life, because they practice bhakti. But at the same time, they can't give up material life completely to engage themselves in the complete practice of bhakti. So what happens to such a person? You could say it's a bit of an existential crisis that they go through. Normally what happens, such a devotee, let's call him devotee, will take up a particular level of practice of bhakti. They may not be a serious sadhaka. They may not go forward for initiation, but they have some semblance of spiritual practice. Yeah. And they have some semblance. At the same time, they know that, depends on the person, at the same time they are engaging in like material pursuits, but they have some semblance of faith still. Yeah. So that's in their good stead. Yeah. So then life, so I'm just point I'm making, then when they leave this world, they're going to be spontaneously attracted again to devotees or to the practice of bhakti.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was asking you because I have a sister, the one in America, and she's like chanting, reading Bhagavad Gita, but yet very materialistic in one way, like, the position in the job has to be really earns good money and beauty and whatever, things like that. So I was thinking, what happens to that kind of person?
Yeah, and I was a pious person who's not ready for the principles of bhakti, and they might be quite enamored that they're not ready to try and lead a more simple life. They're quite enamored by material acquisition, so they've obviously got material desires. So in the next life, they just, because they have practiced some bhakti, because they have come in contact, that will be in their eternal bank account. Yeah, they're going in the eternal bank account, and then in the next life, like that. Anybody else? Any questions or comments here? Right, let's have a look then at the text 39. Again, the question continues. So I'm going to read this. Etanme. Yeah, I'm going to jump in. Etanme shamshayam Krishna chaitum ahasya sheshataha tat anya samsayashasya chaita nahi upapaddate. Yes. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Yeah. Krishna is the perfect knower of past, present, and future. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that all living entities existed individually in the past. Natam eva tato nasam. They exist now in the present, and they continue to retain individual identity in the future, even after liberation from material liberation from material entanglement. So he has already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. Now Arjuna wants to know of the future of the unsuccessful transcendentalists. Right. No one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so-called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna in the final and final and complete answer to all doubts, because he knows past, present, and future perfectly. But no one knows Krishna. But no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna conscious devotees alone can know what is what. Was the verse? I had it here. Yeah. Vetaham samittani vatmanani kajuna bhavishyami tabhutani nat manto no vedana kashtanaha. Yeah, Krishna says, I know everything that's happened in the past, everything that's happened in the now, and everything that's happened in the future. But me, no one knows. Yeah. So any particular comments or questions here? The unsuccessful transcendentalist. Point that's being made is that there is that the point that will be made externally, there is no, the transcendentalist is never unsuccessful. They just haven't completed, they have still to go further on the path. Yeah. They just have to complete the path. They may pause it, but they have to complete it. Yeah. Right, let's get to Krishna's answer, I guess. Yes. 640. Okay, Shri Bhagavanavacha. Everyone, someone like to read Krishna's answer. He answers this in 3 verses. Four verses Krishna covers. 5 verses. Next verses leading up to the end. Okay, we need a reader here. Shri Bhagavanavacha. Yes, someone, Mother Gaya, go ahead. Thank
Shri
you.
Bhagavan Vacha Parthanaiveha Manutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Kritkashit Durgatim Tata Gachati. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Partha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil.
You can read the purple, you can see.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17, Sri Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows. Tyaktva swadharmam charanabhujam harer bhajan apakvodha patitato yadi yatra kva va bhadram abhud amushyam kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmata. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual
But go ahead.
advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser. because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten. Sorry. And one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely, the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratification without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section, and those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious, because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and who thus rise gradually to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely 1. The followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. 2. Those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence. And 3. Those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. Those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization. Grandma, you're not muted. Please, can you mute? Thank you. Those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed toward the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation.
Okay, thank you. So quite a lengthy purport. Let's just go back, and perhaps we better look at each paragraph. This is a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada's instructions on the Srimad Bhagavatam to Srila Vyasadeva. One of the favorite verse of mine, Trakvasa Dhamam Jadanam Bhujam Hari. Yeah. And Prabhupada, there's another verse which this principle is also explained. Nehi Bikramo Nashosti Pratyavayam Navijite Son Alpam Vidamasha Trayati Mahato Bhayat. And that was chapter 2, text 40. Yeah. There's no loss of diminution in this path. Yeah. Yeah, how's that the translation of that? 240 become. Yeah, there's no loss of diminution on the path, yeah. So yeah.
And there was no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one
from the most dangerous type of fear. And that's interesting that I just highlight that. Now, generally, what's the most dangerous type of fear?
Animal life.
Yeah. Now, just take note of that, because in the purple, Prabhupada says here, I just highlight this. Because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is low-born in the next life. So low-born, we generally mean animal life. It seems like maybe a contradiction here. Perhaps I'll ask also, can anyone think of an example of this? Just take this section here. Someone who's fallen away from the path of transcendence, fallen away from the path of bhakti. So they've taken birth in an animal species, the most fearful species, most fearful for a human being, at least a civilized human being would rather not take birth as an animal.
Was it Gajendra? But then he was a...
Well, yeah, that's not who I was thinking of, but still the principle's there.
Yeah, Prince was there. But
Yeah.
he was from the heavenly planets, wasn't it? He was cursed.
Yeah, Indraduma Maharaj, wasn't it?
Right. Maharaj, yes.
He was cursed because he disrespected, I think he disrespected a sadhu or something. Anyway, he's cursed to take birth as a dull elephant. But that's a bit different because he wasn't engaged. He was engaged in the activities of an elephant. But then he came to his senses when it looked like he might be losing his life. So he remembered and then he offered prayers to Krishna. But I'm thinking specifically of
Indra as well, isn't it, Prabhu?
sorry?
Indra did he not take a birth as pigs?
Yeah, Indra was cursed. Indra, was it Indra cursed or Indra was cursed by Brahma, wasn't it? Yeah. And we know that that's a devotees like to tell that story in a class. He took birth in a family of hogs or pigs. But I'm thinking specifically here, this could mean Maharaj Bharat. Yeah.
Yes, he was, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of because it was never forgotten. So although he took birth as a deer, he carried on with his Krishna consciousness, remained intact. And we just nicely described how he continued. He would go to hear from the sadhus in the body of a deer, you know. So that's what that means here, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten. One so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. Another example is Chitraketu Maharaj. He was cursed, wasn't it, by Mother Parvati, and he took a low-born birth as a demon. But he was a Krishna conscious demon, just like Jad Bharat was a Krishna conscious deer. So he was a Krishna conscious demon. So there's no loss or diminution. Although externally, as Prabhupada says here, even if low-born, but still he continued with his Krishna consciousness. So that's just, yeah. So this verse points out as well that even if someone very expert materially, at the end of life, they have now to show, actually. Yeah, Prabhupada. Now in this verse, I looked at this verse earlier on. In the purport to this verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada quotes, what gaineth a man if he gains the whole world but loses sight of his own soul? So what gaineth a person who is very expert materially, but at the end of life, they have nothing auspicious to cash in. Everything is inauspicious. And they lose everything. Well, they don't lose everything, but they get taken away from everything. They get taken away from their house. They get taken away from their bank account. They get taken away from all their so-called stuff that they have, whatever it may be. They have to leave. So they've sort of lost everything. But whereas someone may practice bhakti even for, let's say, for a week or 2 weeks or 1 month, that person is better situated than a person who has work very hard, but just being a gross materialist, then they lose everything. But a devotee is someone who's been practicing just a little while. If they fall away, then they're better situated. Yeah. This verse kind of explains that. Trakvasa dhamam charadam bhujam hare. One who's taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Let me just try and. Any other comments on this? I'm gonna find this verse and I can quote it to you. So that's this first paragraph here. So let me try this here. 5:17. No, just had it. Bhagavatam. One who has forsaken his material occupation to engage in a devotional service to the Lord may fall down while in an immature stage. Yet there is no danger of his being unsuccessful. On the other hand, a non-devotee fully engaged in the occupational duties does not gain anything. So Prabhupada again, he quotes this. What gaineth a man if he gains the whole world but loses sight of his own soul? Yeah. And yes. Yeah, any questions here or comments? Just looking through this here again. Yeah, this here, I was looking as well. This here, it is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reactions for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to engage here, to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to sinful reactions. So the duty of basically the duty of the human form of life is to engage in the activities of service to the Supreme Lord. That's what the human life is meant for. And if one is not engaged in that, then one is engaged in fruitive activity. So there will be a consequential reaction of future births in the material world. Yeah. But devotees, the transcendentalists, there'll be no need of worries. Yeah. And here it says, even though he may be subject to reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he's still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten. And one so engaged will be continued, as we said, we quoted this already. Yeah. All right. Anything else from here? We'll go move over the page. Papa speaks the regulated and the non-regulated. The non-regulated, the bestial sense gratification. Yeah, they don't even care about the next life. Yeah, they have no knowledge of the next life. They don't give a hoot. There is no next life, so you can do what you want. Yeah. Then there's those who follow some principles, prescribed scriptures, and classify them on the regulated section. And this part here, the non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated, non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious. So so-called civilized persons, so-called educated persons, are driven by animal propensities with no inquiry about the higher self. Yeah. But they remain in material existence. Those are regulated by scriptural injunctions and arise gradually to Krishna consciousness, certainly progress in life. So gradually. So going back to Godhead is a gradual thing. It may be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lives. Yeah. Hopefully, as Mother Chandravati said, we should try and finish up things in this life. But don't worry, if we don't make it in this life, we're just going to continue in the next life. Yes, it's
Yeah.
a chance. Yes, it's a chance. We may, because we get born again, but but still there's some encouragement there. We're Krishna from within the heart, he's going to remind us of our attraction to a bhakti. Yeah, okay, let's try and make it in this life. And Prabhupada will quote his spiritual master in that regard. But even if we don't, there isn't anything to be despondent about, because you're just going to continue until you reach perfection.
I know it's saying, and it's so clear, but I still feel determined to, like, be serious about spiritual life,
Yeah, that's true. It is true, having said, because
I
there
know
is.
you can come back next life. I know you can come back next life, but we cannot. I mean, I cannot trust my mind.
Yeah, I mean, like, we don't want to come back, but it so happens that we see that some do desist from spiritual life, from the full practice. So therefore, but they haven't lost anything. There is no loss, and they are better than a gross materialist. And we see that many. Yeah, even if one takes, we see, practically speaking, in our Krishna conscious movement, sometimes it's seen that those who take birth in devotee family, the nature of this material world is that it's not always guaranteed that they're going to take up bhakti.
That's it.
Sometimes they become, just like a gross materialist. Although it's seen, on the average, they generally come to some sense later on in their later life. They kind of fall back on their Krishna conscious upbringing, when they feel the pinches of material existence. So anyway, I just want to get here. So here, what does Prabhupada mean here? That the followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. This here, there's a certain word Prabhupada otherwise uses, but he's not using it here. He's describing it in a different way. This is
Kamakanda?
Yeah, you got it. Well done, Mother Lavanga. This is a kami. Not the kami that, no, this is someone who's following karma ganda. Yeah, someone who's pious, the following rules and regulations. So from that following of rules and regulations according to Dharma, they get artha. They get material prosperity. Yeah, because they follow Dharma. Where I was reading the other day, this kind of observation. There's an observation that coming to the temple mainly are pious Indian people, many of them. Because they're dharmic, then their material life is quite well sorted, because of their dharma. So I think David Muthu Maharaj was saying newcomers from the West often find it difficult to relate to pious Indians because they haven't been through the grind of gross materialistic hedonistic life. So that's why he's created his loft programs and things like that. But it's a side point. So what about those who are trying to find the ultimate liberation from material existence? That's the next one up. Karmis. What's next?
That's those are trying to
Gyanis, yeah.
liberate. Gyanis?
Gyanis. I think it's Gyanis here. They're trying to find the ultimate liberation. So Gyanis, to engage in speculation from material existence. And then we got the bhaktas here. Those are devotees. Those are following rules and regulations of scripture. From to have to maybe further divided in two classes. Right. So it's a bit of a testing you. Oh, it's gone highlighted. I didn't know why did it do that? I don't know. Right, so I'm asking you a few questions here, testing your reading, our reading of the Bhagavad Gita. So what's this refer? What's another name for this here? Those are following the rules and regulations of scripture. of scripture for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. Let's go from here. Those are those are fruity workers and who desire no fruits for sense gratification. That's the
Those are fruity workers and those who desire no fruits for sense. That's devotees.
this is Nishkam Karma Yogi. We've heard to come across that word, isn't it? Nishkam.
Yeah.
Karma. So they have to have there's some level of detachment. They who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Yeah, Nishkam. Then there's Sakam. Those who are after fruity results of sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. Then the next paragraph here. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So activity in Krishna consciousness, only auspicious path. And anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress in Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. Okay. Anyone can say why Prabhupada, what comparison is Prabhupada making here? He's not asking us to engage in severe austerity. He's comparing the bhakta to the yogi, because the yogis engage in severe austerity. All right? But the person who's engaged in Krishna consciousness, that's he says, the only auspicious activity. Yeah. So they're actually the perfect transcendentalists under severe austerity. All right.
And that means that the person in Krishna consciousness is performing severe austerity.
Well, it means they are actually, as far as I can see, Prabhupada's making a comparison here. In other words, they don't need to engage in severe, because that is the severe austerity. Okay, severe austerity, but the only severe austerity is to engage in bhakti. And Prabhupada didn't encourage us to engage in severe austerities. Prabhupada encouraged us to follow the regular principles, but we as a practice, we don't stand in water up to the neck. We don't, go to the Himalayas to do different types of tapasyas and things like that. Because it's all covered in bhakti. If you engage in Krishna consciousness, the all auspicious activity, that is considered. You are getting the results of severe austerity. Yeah. And there's no need to engage in the eightfold yoga system. Yeah. As far as I understand, everything is covered by Krishna consciousness.
But isn't Krishna conscious austerity as well? What, like you got to get up so early, you have to chant 16 rounds, don't eat this, don't eat this.
Right, so maybe
voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress in Krishna. So there is some austerity because you're accepting bodily discomforts for the sake of Krishna.
And anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called. So that's the regulative principles. Yeah.
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 The regulative principle for the sake of making progress on the path can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. Yeah.
Because in the beginning for a devotee who is starting, it's quite a lot of austerities to give up what they're eating before, what they're associating with, what they're watching. It is quite a lot. Once you get into Krishna conscious,
then you get a taste for these austerities.
So you automatically start giving these things up.
Yeah, and it becomes
in rounds. It's a lot. It's a big austerity.
Yeah.
Well, those who beginning, yes, you know.
No, it is.
Then if you develop taste, then it's okay, you know.
Yeah. Like sometimes when we explain to a newcomer about 16 rounds, and normally I show them the beads, you know, and I chant with Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Then we chant all the way around. I was given a presentation to some trainee school teachers, and I explained, and I went round and I showed them how to chanting one round. I said, and then we go round like this. Then I paused, said, and we do that 16 times. It was wide-eyed. They couldn't believe it. You do that 16 times. Yeah. All right. First
Like,
yeah,
for me, even now on a Sundays, it's austerity to get those 16 rounds done. By the time I've been at the temple so long, come back home, deities,
Yeah.
evening. Yeah, well, I mean, it is still austerity at times, you know.
So divine austerity, tapo divyam, it's called, as a verse in the 5th canto. Tapo divyam. By this divine austerity, one obtains Brahma Sokantot Antam, unlimited, ever increasing spiritual bliss. Yeah. Sankam. Yeah. Tapo divyam patakriyena sakadam. All right, let's pause there. So these are Krishna is encouraging us here, you know. There's no loss or diminution. There's no going backwards. You know? There's no loss, not like material life. Everything is lost. And even if you do well in material life, everything is lost. But a little advancement. Yeah. So this is answering Arjuna's question. What happens to a person who doesn't make it or desists from the practice of spiritual life? What happens to them? Well, they just continue. There's no loss. All right. So we continue tomorrow with text 41, and Krishna is going to continue in this vein. Okay. All right. So thank you for joining us. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Please join us. Thank you for coming. Good. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Bhagavad Gita.
Jai.
Jai. Oh, the Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare Ram. Hare Ram. Ram Ram. Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.